Welcome back to the rest of the story. Well, I'm going to talk to you guys real quick about an accessory we had to put on the 8235R. Now I'm going to block the light this fall. It's a heater for the engine. All you got to do is plug it in. Simple enough, if you guys see that. Now, starting this tractor has always been an issue. It has always been a hard starter. I mean, ever since we brought it home. And the problem is that it takes about a dozen cranks to really get the engine to fire. And the problem is when you get in cold weather, like we've had this fall, which has come in an abundance, the tractor gets to where it doesn't want to start at all because it has no cold weather package on it at all. It came from Florida. It didn't need it down south, I'm assuming. And when we got it, we were just getting by keeping it in the shed, where at least it stayed somewhat warm, where it was able to start in the mornings, or we were using the dreaded ether. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like using ether, but it's a necessary evil, because when you have no other way to get it to start, to assist it to start, you're pretty much backed into a corner where you have to. And the problem we had this fall, which granted we've had this tractor for what, this is the fourth year with it, fourth, whatever year with it. I should have done that the very first year we got it, and we always managed to, taking a word from my grandma, was we always managed to get by. And I absolutely hate that term. Yes, it's from my grandma, but I absolutely hated hearing "we'll get by" from my grandma, because there was no sense of urgency there. And for a lot of the time there really was an underlying sense of urgency to get hay made or cut hay, get the crops in, get the crops out, get the cows in, fix fence, anything like that. It took quite a bit, albeit I don't think I remember my grandma ever getting angry or really all that excited, for that matter. My grandma was a very laid back, steady as you go kind of person. My grandma is tougher than you. No offense to anybody, but that's just the way my grandma was. Grandma never stopped. She never quit. She only had one gear, and that was forward. We've said it in the past. Towards the last couple of years when Grandma was here, we were filling the shed down at my place with straw. Rain was coming. We had 3 wagon loads of straw that we had to get inside, so at least it didn't get rained on, because we didn't have any space in the shed to even back them in. So what we were doing, we had the elevator set up, and Ryan and I were lobbing them onto the elevator as fast and as hard as we could. We had the elevator solid full going up in the barn. And we told my grandma before we even started, we're not stacking them. We're just going to pile them. It's like we'll be pulling them right out of the pile throughout this winter. It's okay. You don't need to stack them. We got about a third of the way through let me slow down a little bit. We got about a third of the way through that first load of straw, that first load of small square bales, and it came to our attention that Grandma disappeared. Well, didn't take a whole lot of thinking to realize where she went, where she was, and what she was doing. And sure enough, we shut everything down. We ran up in the barn. There was probably about a 10-foot tall pile of bales in the barn, and there was my grandma in the corner of the barn. She had the whole first, probably a 30 by, no, it was bigger than that. Yeah, probably like a 40 by 30 area already filled up. She had the first layer of bales stacked up already, the way they should be stacked, up on their side and then pushed in tight to maximize your available space. And the bales falling down like they were just as fast as we could get them on really didn't faze her. And that pretty much describes my grandma to a T. From fixing fence to milking cows to chores to doing calf chores. She was missing fingers. She lost her fingers on 2 separate occasions. She lost them once to a lawnmower. I know no one should really ever lose your fingers to a lawnmower, but accidents happen. And there was another farm accident where her fingers were wrapped around a calf rope, and they were moving a a calf from the barn over to the calf hutches, and the rope got caught in a combination from, it got caught underneath the skid steer tire because Grandma was in the bucket holding the calf. Well, I don't know how, why, whatever. The rope that was, the harness that was on the calf was around Grandma's fingers, and it caught between the calf, the tire, and her fingers were wrapped in the rope between the two. And she drove to the hospital by herself. I mean, I don't know how bad that one was compared to the first time. I was too young for the first time she lost them, and the second time when she lost with that accident, I was maybe like 5, 6, and I'm getting off topic, but yes. Anybody is wondering why I don't talk about Grandma that much, I don't talk about Grandpa that much. Well, the thing is, I don't mention Grandma a whole lot is because I have nothing but good memories with my grandma. That is one of the instances where you talk crap about my grandma, that's almost guaranteed to get a very angry response. I had one of those, somebody actually talked down to my grandma less than a couple months after she passed, and that's just not something anybody wants to hear. So, back to the 82. Grandpa never saw this tractor. I did demo that 7930. He never ran that, and he did see it, but he just knew I was demoing it. Grandpa's favorite tractor was his 4230. That was his everything tractor. Grandpa's opinion was we didn't need anything bigger than a 4020. He actually said that a couple times, that he regretted buying the 4440 because it was too big. That was my grandpa's take on that. So, as far as my grandparents go, we were just talking about that today, that Grandpa actually enlisted in the Army. He sold all of his farming equipment before he left because he got, was it draft? I don't remember if it was drafted or he enlisted. I'm pretty sure it was because he got drafted. And what ended up happening is that they turned him away for medical reasons because I think it was he had a hernia or he had hernia surgery. I'm going to have to ask my mom about that one again. But he actually got turned down for military service because he was supposed to be in the Korean conflict, I believe. I think I remember that much. Yeah, things definitely look different around here from what it was when my grandpa was around. Granted, that was a wholehearted dairy operation with some beef cattle, some steers, and the crops, for the most part, for a large part, were only here to supplement the cattle. Grandpa really wasn't interested at all in doing the crop farming himself. We did do soybeans back in 2007, I think is our first year of soybeans. I got a picture of Ryan on the grain wagon where he's laying in the soybeans and he's holding the soybeans up, but it was a fight to get my grandpa to do soybeans because we weren't as big of an operation as far as milking cows towards the end, and we didn't really need 250, 300, oh gosh, what was it? It was a lot of acres of hay, trying to take 3 to 4 crops off of it. We just didn't need it, and it took a lot of convincing to get Grandpa to plant soybeans. And as much as I don't like soybeans now, I would much rather raise 50 acres of soybeans than 50 acres of hay you don't need. At least we were making money on the soybeans. Also, as far as the corn goes, my grandpa didn't start selling corn out of that 10,000 bushel bin. He didn't start selling corn out of that until sometime in the 90s, if even that early. It may have been later yet, because my grandpa used to feed out all the corn that he produced. He didn't hardly sell any, and that's what he kind of got into doing. He didn't forward contract, he didn't market. It was, you filled the bin full, which is, you filled it up to the bottom of the stirrator, and you just sold it in June. That was Grandpa's marketing strategy. He didn't watch the prices. I remember the first time he got $6.11. back when the prices were, starting to get up there, and that was early on. And Grandpa held that check up and he says, that's the most I've ever made on corn before. And $6.11 on, it's a 10,000 bushel bin, and at the most we ever really put was about 8,000 bushels in it. I imagine if we buried the stirrator and we coned that right up to the opening door or the top hatch, you'd probably get 10,000 right in that area, plus or minus a few hundred bushels. But that is a lot of stress on the stirrator, a lot of stress on the farmer pulling that corn out and potentially pulling that stirrator down with you, or with the corn into the cone, because that is a very real thing that has happened to some local guys, and it just sounds terrible to me. I wouldn't ever want to experience that. So that's why we were very careful when we do fill it. That 10,000 bushel bin, I'm not really sure I want to fill that again. It looks like it's showing a little bit more structural fatigue to me, and I got to look at it a little bit closer. And quite honestly, I'm going to use my videos to an advantage. I'm going to go back and see if you can really tell that it's settled anymore. We didn't put very much in it for soybeans, and maybe a couple thousand bushels, but to me it just seems like if it does fall over, or if it does continue to fall over in the direction that it's going, it's going to do a lot of damage to some things that we don't want to see damaged. That 20,000 bushel Sioux, we don't want to see that damaged, and it's going to fall over on those LP tanks, which would be disastrous also. So, yes, as far as Grandma and Grandpa go, Grandma always told us that she made that very clear to Grandpa that she wanted us to get the farms. She made it very clear that she wanted me and Ryan to get them, which in turn is why we're here. But times have really changed. The newer stuff, Grandpa never would have considered anything new as this. If anybody has ever heard me talk about a 7520, that's part of the reason why I'm so interested in purchasing a nice used one someday, is because my grandpa got very close to buying a brand new John Deere 7520. And in the end, he ended up going with that 7400 with the loader because he did not want to pay upwards of $80,000 for a new tractor. And you can't blame him. I always wanted to get a 7520. I kind of upgraded a little bit, honestly. As far as a decent use case around here, a 7530 I think would be a lot more, a little bit more of a universal usage machine. IVT duals, X-mount duals, front wheel assist, or mechanical front wheel drive, and something that we can use year round is, something that I'd like to aim for. 7530 in all actuality would be on the corn planter if I end up going that route. And I shouldn't be talking about window shopping or anything like that, but it's kind of hard to. It's the end of the year, and money's never there, and it's never enough, even when you are making money. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to do another video, and I'm probably gonna start that right now. So why don't you guys stay tuned for tomorrow, and I'll talk about what I originally started this video on, because everybody likes to hear me talk about Grandma and Grandpa, and however much I can. So thanks for watching. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.